Welcome to the Health Links podcast, where we bring you conversations that empower healthier living. Welcome to the Health Links podcast, presented by the Health Links family of services. I'm your host, DJ Thatcher, a board-certified paramedic and registered nurse, and what we do here is engage in conversations with experts about the medical and wellness landscape, so we're all better informed. Now, in this issue, we're going to be going for a deep dive into the second largest organ of the body. Now, for you trivia buffs, think about that. What's the largest organ and what's the second largest? To give you a hint, our expert guest in this episode is a physician from Charleston GI, Dr. Nathan Shores, who's board certified in gastroenterology and hepatology. So, Dr. Shores, welcome to the Health Links podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
So for all the trivia people out there, okay, what's the largest organ of the body?
The skin.
Yeah, a lot of people don't think about that, do they? But it is the largest organ. And the second largest is your specialty.
Is the liver.
It is, yeah. And what we're going to do is go for a dive here into a condition known as fatty liver or fatty liver disease. But first of all, Dr. Shores, so what does the liver really do for us?
The liver does a lot. If it wasn't for the heart, I guess I'd say it does the most. Mm-hmm. The heart mainly exists to pump blood to the liver. I'm just kidding. That's something I say. But it does a lot of things. It's a factory, so it makes a lot of the important proteins, hormones, and blood fats that people need to survive. It's also part of a cleanup crew of the body. It gets rid of toxins and chemicals that you don't want and don't need. It allows you to excrete it into your urine or stool. It warms the blood to some extent. And sort of basically cleans and reviews everything that comes from your GI tract that gets eaten or consumed.
Wow.
Goes through the liver first to be reviewed, altered, things are added, things are removed before they go to your heart.
Okay, so it's got multiple functions. And I know one thing you want to address today is this whole concept of fatty liver or fatty liver disease. What's that all about? I bet a lot of people in our audience, we've done a lot of diet episodes where I think, oh man, one more fat thing I've got to worry about. But what's that all about?
Fatty liver is a relatively new idea in the sense that in the past we thought if you had fatty liver, it was almost certainly from alcohol. Mm-hmm. And that was a little unfortunate. For years it was thought that you either had fatty liver because you were drinking alcohol or lying about drinking alcohol. Oh, okay. And then sometime around 25 years ago, the light went off and people realized it was its own discrete disease. Mm-hmm. It's now become the most common liver disease in the Western world.
Wow.
Fortunately, about 8 out of 10 people who get fat in their liver, not much occurs. It's their body telling them, hey, you're a little heavy for your height. You're risking high blood pressure. You're risking high cholesterol. You may be even risking diabetes. But the liver itself is pretty fine. Unfortunately, 2 out of the 10, you may go on to get cirrhosis as if you were even a heavy drinker or had a viral hepatitis. The liver can actually be ruined by the process and lead to liver cancer or a transplant.
Okay.
And so, since so many people can have fatty liver, 20% of 30 million people is a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So even though it's only 20% of the people with fatty liver get in trouble, you're talking 20% of a very large number.
Mm-hmm. So, a lot of people equate liver problems with drinking, and cirrhosis of the liver is very common. What is that, and how does that differ from the fatty liver, if it does?
So cirrhosis indicates scar tissue. Okay. So people can have fat in their liver, and their liver is pretty much the same organ that you were born with, except there's some fat distributed through it. Okay. Cirrhosis is different. The organ is fundamentally changed. There are streaks of heavy bands of scar tissue running through it. Mm-hmm. It's mainly a diagnosis of biopsy. You can have no scarring, we call that stage 0. You can have a little bit, we call that stage 1. You can have a medium amount, we call that stage 2. Now we're starting to become a little anxious about you. You can have a lot, that's stage 3, and now we're really worried that you're headed somewhere we don't like. And then stage 4 is cirrhosis on biopsy. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for some people, you can look completely normal at stage 4 for several years. So it can sometimes be missed. You're walking around with cirrhotic liver, but looking and feeling good enough so you're not necessarily getting the attention you need at that stage. So it's really a biopsy diagnosis.
Okay. If I understand correctly, so we could have this fatty liver disease from alcohol. Maybe the other path then is we're obese, we maybe have diabetes or chronic high fat levels, high sugar levels. Is that correct?
Right. It's probably the unspecified part of the syndrome X or the metabolic syndrome. I don't know if you've ever talked about that on the podcast, but the metabolic syndrome, or syndrome X, is when people have insulin intolerance or high sugar levels, diabetes, if you will, high cholesterol, increased abdominal girth, and high blood pressure.
Okay.
The new add-on to that, which is often there, maybe 80% of the time, is going to be fat in the liver.
I see.
Or fatty liver.
Okay.
And it intertwines with those other conditions, feeds off of them and feeds back from them. So.
Okay. If I remember my anatomy days, I know that our internal organs have some fat on them, the visceral fat that cushions them, and I guess is an energy source. Some of that is normal. So in this case, does that increase as well, or there actually is fat within the liver itself?
It's fats within the liver itself.
Okay.
So if you were to take a biopsy of the liver and look at it under a microscope, you would see a large yellow fat droplet right in the middle of the cell.
Yuck. Okay. Yeah, sounds gross.
But what I mean was they feed off each other, is having fat around your organs somehow metabolically, and we're starting to sort this thing out, leads to more fat in your liver.
Okay.
Then somehow having these fat droplets in your liver makes you more likely to carry that fat around your waist and around your organs. It's a feedback loop between the two. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So it doesn't sound good, but what actually is happening inside as we increase our fat levels inside the liver? What's going on?
Well, for a lot of people, fortunately, not much. It's just an added side effect. It's almost like having, a fat face or a fat belly. You're like, your body's like, hey, you've gained a little bit too much weight. You might time to start cutting back and looking at things. For the unfortunate few, the ones who get the scar tissue, the free fatty acids release a free radical which can damage DNA of a cell.
Oh, okay.
And so it's unclear why that happens with some people, not others. But some people, when they have their fat, it's literally damaging the DNA of that individual liver cell.
Okay.
Now, the liver can heal itself, much like the skin, which you referenced earlier. But the problem is, just like the skin, if you damage it over and over again, it heals back plus scar tissue.
Right.
So you damage it one day with fat, you heal the next day with scar tissue. You do that every day for 30 years, you end up with mostly scarred liver.
Right. I imagine the scarred liver is not going to do all the functions you mentioned earlier, the filtration and everything else.
Right. It also becomes, all the blood has to flow through it from your intestines. If it becomes scarred, it literally becomes hard for the blood to flow through it physically. It becomes a physics problem. It's like a clogged up filter.
Sure. Makes sense.
And then that blood has to go somewhere.
Okay.
And people start to get swollen legs, swollen bellies, things like that.
Now, I know you have lots of treatment options. We'll get into that in just a moment. But prevention, of course, is always best. So besides all the things that we hear that we should be doing, eating properly and so forth, what are some specific things we can do to help prevent this or maybe treat it in its early stages?
Well, prevention is for most people, normal body weight. There are some unfortunate people that get fatty liver based on family history despite having normal body weight, but they're a small number and probably not worth focusing on from a public health point of view. Gotcha. From an individual point of view, they're certainly important patients. From a public health point of view, keeping a normal body weight, if anybody knows what the BMI is, it'd be nice to keep your BMI 25 or less.
Okay.
It doesn't seem to matter how you keep your weight down, meaning that if you're heavy, almost any diet that lowers your body weight by 10 to 20% seems to get fat out of your liver.
Okay.
Whether it be a low carb diet or just a total low calorie diet. Also, without weight loss, you can exercise some fat out of your liver. Even if your weight stays about the same, heavy exercise seems to do it. And then for a long time, until some new treatments came out, weight loss surgery was a way of reversing fat. Not done primarily to reverse fat in the liver, but certainly known to do it.
I saw a mention that a lot of us have insulin resistance, and that can, of course, make this worse too, I guess. Is that right?
Exactly. So again, that's part of that circular relationship with the rest of the body. For some reason, having insulin resistance puts fat in your liver, but the more fat in your liver, the more resistant you are to your insulin.
I see.
And you've got to break that cycle. And usually that cycle is broken through strict dieting that allows you to lose a particular amount of weight, 10 or 20%, or a certain amount of exercise, something that intervenes in that cycle and breaks it and disrupts it.
All right. Well, of course, we're living here in the middle of South Carolina, which has some of the worst stats for many diseases. And so let's say we have someone who's listening or watching, and they don't know if they have liver problems, but maybe they're overweight and so forth. What are some of the signs or symptoms they may experience that might trigger them to think, ooh, maybe I have a problem with my liver?
Unfortunately, not many.
Okay.
And that's why it sort of behooves most adults to have a relationship with a doctor. Even if you're not someone who goes to the doctor a lot, one of the important things about managing your health is going to the doctor at least once a year, even when you feel well. Because unfortunately, as everybody knows, blood pressure is the silent killer. You can silently have fatty liver for many years, or even silently have high blood sugars. And so going in to get yourself checked occasionally is the only way that some people know about these things, unfortunately.
Primarily blood tests to begin with, because I know we can scan and so forth. But,
right.
What would, like a primary care doctor, what are they going to be triggered to
Right. So
do?
If your BMI is elevated, they would probably add to your basic blood tests that look at your electrolytes and your kidney function. They can add what's called liver function tests.
Right.
These are tests that will be elevated if there's some inflammation present. If those are elevated, that will often lead to maybe an ultrasound.
Okay.
Another way that I get patients sometimes with fatty liver is they will hurt on their side, and everybody knows the gallbladder lives in this area. They'll go get an ultrasound. They want to assess their gallbladder, and then they'll be told they have some fatty liver. That patients come to me that way sometimes. Other things that can happen is there's famously cholesterol medicines, the statins. You're supposed to check people's liver test if you start someone on a statin. So a doctor will start a statin to lower a patient's cholesterol, and then they'll check their liver numbers and find they're slightly elevated. Okay. And they'll come to me, and I'll help sort that out.
Gotcha. All right. Are people coming to you directly, or are you getting most of your patients through referrals or a mixture?
For fatty liver, mostly through referrals. In general GI, you'll see a lot of people, my stomach hurts, I'll call my doctor. But a lot of people, it's really their primary care, or if they're diabetic, their endocrinologist that picks up on this for them.
Okay. All right. So let's say I come to you, I've been tagged by my primary care doctors having some liver function tests that are abnormal and so forth. What's the course you go through then when you're working up someone?
So fortunately, they usually come to me with those labs from the primary care doctor.
Right.
I have several scoring tests, which anybody could use. They're not proprietary, where I can take basic labs, their age and their weight, and put it into a scoring system that gives me an indication of whether or not they have scar tissue in their liver or not.
I see.
I almost always usually get an ultrasound as well. I have to rule out less common but very important liver diseases. We'll test all those people for hepatitis C and hepatitis B. We'll test those people for hemochromatosis, which is a fairly common iron disease where iron goes in the liver. And once we've ruled out several things and the patient looks the part, meaning they are a little heavy for their height or they have high cholesterol or high blood pressure or even diabetes, then with the ultrasound, we can go ahead and label them non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
I see. Okay. Where do you go there? Do you then go to scans or anything, or just go into medication treatment, or what would the first step be?
The ultrasound that I use is meant to also let me know if they have scar tissue without doing a biopsy. Nice. So I'm a liver doctor. I like liver biopsies. Gotcha. I'm going to out myself right here. But patients don't like them. It's just funny.
Yeah, right.
So so we've tried to come up with what's called a non-invasive test, or NITs, to figure out who's got simple fat, where, hey, just lose some weight, sir. Let's get your cholesterol down. Let's live a long, healthy life. Versus who's got scar tissue. Hey, you're making scar tissue. You might one day have some liver trouble that puts you in a special category. I have a special type of ultrasound that exists in the community as well that it's supposed to gauge if they have scar tissue without me actually having to take a real biopsy. And they're also trying every day to develop blood tests, special proprietary blood tests that can give you similar information so that someone can come to me and I can try to accurately, we're not as good as we would like to be, but we're getting better at telling them, oh, you don't have any scar tissue. Let's relax. Let's lose some weight. Or you have a lot of scar tissue. You see me more often. I have some special medicines you might need.
Yeah, so what kind of medication options do we have here? I've seen there's quite a few, I know.
Yeah. So the first medicines that were available to us, there was a lot of failures actually. I was part of researching this when I was in academics back in 2010, and I had 3 medicines going at any one time, and they all kept failing, just not showing clinical significance. They weren't hurting anybody, but they weren't helping. We got our first helpful medicine of March 2024. It sort of surprised us. It works through a thyroid receptor, which we didn't realize was important in the liver. And a thyroid's extremely important everywhere, so it makes sense it's important in the liver, but it wasn't known to us prior to this. And its name is Rezdiffra, and it's a medication, it's a pill, and it's FDA approved now to reverse fat and scar tissue and inflammation from someone's liver.
Interesting.
And then medicines you probably have heard of, Mounjaro and Ozempic, or Zepbound and Wegovy, same drug, different names. Wegovy just got approved 3 weeks ago for removing fat and scar tissue from the liver.
Okay.
It's unclear to me if that's just from weight loss alone or if it has its own direct effects in the liver, but the FDA doesn't really care too much as long as it did the thing it said it wanted to do in the trial. They got approval. It won't be long, I think, before Zepbound gets similar approval, and then we're probably looking at 3 to 4 other drugs in pill form that will get the same indications over the next 5 years.
I know Ozempic is just exploding everywhere, the use of Ozempic, and it would make sense because you're reducing fat, so it's going to reduce that belly fat and also that visceral fat or the internal fat, so it makes sense.
Yeah, I've had a few patients, and this is not on label, this is just my experience, with cirrhosis that need transplant due to fatty liver, and I've treated their diabetes with Mounjaro, and their liver seems to have functioned better since then. That's anecdotal, but it's been gratifying.
I was going to mention that because part of your bio, I know you were the director of liver transplants at Tulane University. And what do people do? A lot of kidney disease out there, obviously. So people are on kidney dialysis, and that can bridge them over until they can find a kidney. What about someone who's waiting for a liver transplant? How are they treated in that?
That's very challenging. The liver world has looked for dialysis for the liver, so to speak, and they haven't given up on it, but it's not anywhere close.
Okay.
So unfortunately, those people have to sort of wait to get sicker. The way kidneys are given out is based on time.
Okay.
Or unless you can find a living donor that you know personally. Livers are given out on the sickest first, and there's a scoring system called the MELD score where they take certain blood labs, not physical exam findings, oddly enough, just blood labs, to try to come up with a score that puts a patient in a spot on the list. Right. And that can be dynamic. That can be the bottom of the list one day and then get sicker from some mechanism. There's several, and all of a sudden jump to the top of the list in a week. So in that way, it's sort of fair. But in another way, if you're sort of on the bottom of the list, you have to live with your chronic liver disease for many years. And in that case, we just manage the symptoms, fluid issues. People even get mental confusion with their liver disease, and it's a challenging but gratifying type of medicine.
Yeah, I bet. I was going to ask you, what do people look like in that end-stage liver disease when they're on that transplant list, when it gets so bad?
Yeah. So most people who are getting there's two reasons to get transplanted. One is transplant can actually cure liver cancer, which is, I won't go too much into that. Those people look pretty good. They've got a tumor in their liver that we've seen on...
How prevalent is that, by the way, liver cancer? You don't hear it so much.
No, many cancers go to the liver. Very few start in the liver. Fortunately, you almost only get liver cancer if you already have cirrhosis. Okay. So we know where to look. Yeah. We know we're always tracking our people with cirrhosis to see if they've got liver cancer. We're ultrasounding them or scanning them 1 to 2 times a year. And then when it pops up, we act. Oh, interesting. We make a referral to a transplant center, treat that tumor, and then that person can eventually qualify for a liver so they get a fresh organ that isn't so susceptible to cancer. Okay.
Then you're saying about the end stage.
The end stage person is quite different. Yeah. They're coming on, they turn yellow in color, sometimes just lightly so, sometimes deeply so. They'll start to have free fluid collect in their belly, like sloshing around, some swelling in their legs. Mental confusion can be subtle, like problems sleeping, all the way to saying things that aren't appropriate for the situation, not able to handle their personal affairs, not able to drive. Right. They can start to vomit blood. It can get quite serious. Some people get transplanted right out of the ICU. Wow.
You mentioned the yellow color, that jaundice. And of course, a lot of young parents, they might have a child who has that.
Yes.
It's all related to the liver, obviously.
Right.
Same thing. With kids, they put a light on and it goes away, but obviously with adults, a whole different...
Right. Childhood jaundice is fortunately not so serious. It does have to be managed to protect the child in that short term, but there's really nothing really wrong with their liver. The child's liver is just trying to wake up and learn how to do its job of getting rid of yellow pigment called bilirubin, and it eventually does and never becomes a problem again. The adult liver, their jaundice is for a different reason. They've lost that ability through heavy scarring of the liver, and they won't get it back until the liver is replaced.
Okay. So most of the management, if I get it right, is medication, obviously lifestyle, probably number one. So diet, exercise can help.
Right, and not drinking excessively. It'd probably be best not to drink at all.
I was going to say,
if you have significant fatty liver, but certainly doing the things you can control is important.
What other services do you offer there at Charleston GI? You've got a big group. You've got 4 offices throughout the Charleston region here, Somerville and Carnes Cross Road. And
it is. It's really great practice, and we're fortunate with the many doctors we have in the facilities, our nurses, we can offer quite a bit. I mean, the standard services most people know about would be like a colonoscopy to prevent colon cancer, an upper endoscopy for heartburn or trouble swallowing. We treat viral liver disease, fatty liver. We treat hemorrhoids. Some people have trouble with the plumbing of their liver. Their bile ducts can get clogged with stones or things. We can fix that. I have partners that can use a special ultrasound on the tip of a camera called an EUS to look through your stomach under your pancreas and make sure your pancreas is healthy and sample that if they need to. I don't know.
By the way, for people who are wondering, the pancreas and the liver, they work, I mean, like all the organs do, but they work kind of hand in hand, don't they?
Yes, they're the pancreatic enzymes. Pancreas does 2 things. It will send hormones into your blood to manage your blood sugar, but then it also sends actual real liquid enzyme into your intestine when you're eating to help you digest your food. That mixes up around the same time with the bile that your liver makes to create the right environment for digesting the food that your stomach has just ground up.
I see.
And they all hit almost in the same area. And the bile ducts and the pancreatic duct come together in that area, and we address both because they are in a similar location.
Okay, good. Well, so just to summarize a few things for people who might be having an issue, unlike many illnesses, there isn't really a specific sign or symptom they may see from this. So that's why it's so important to get that annual or at least somewhat regular.
Right. If you're yellow,
checkup.
it's a little late. With fatty liver, I mean.
Yeah.
So it's better. Part of being an adult, unfortunately, is you got to pay your taxes. You got to keep your car registered. You need to go see your doctor once a year.
Thanks for that input. So we're talking fatty liver disease, a little bit about irritable bowel syndrome as well, with Dr. Nathan Shores from Charleston GI. Dr. Shores, thank you so much for joining us here.
My pleasure.
At
Thanks for having me. Thank you very much.
And for everything related to our podcast, check us out at healthlinkssc.com. I'm DJ Thatcher. Thank you for joining.